From CitrusTV News, your campus news leader, this is the Student Association Executive Debate. Live from the Syracuse University National Veterans Resource Center.
Good evening. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge with respect the Onondaga Nation, Firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous peoples on whose ancestral land Syracuse University now stands. Please note that no food or beverage is allowed and that exits can be found on the sides and in the back should an emergency occur. I would like to welcome everyone to the executive debate for the 67th session of the Student Association at Syracuse University and the State University of New York College of Environmental Science and Forestry in partnership with CitrusTV. My name is Otto Sutton, Chair of the Student Association Board of Elections. Thank you all for joining us tonight as we hear directly from the candidates about their visions for an unsurpassed student experience. The Student Association represents more than 16,000 undergraduate students across 13 schools, each one of whom has unique experiences and concerns. Tonight offers us the opportunity to judge who will best represent us in the upcoming session. I would like to thank Elections Vice Chair Taylor Stover and Commissioner Caroline Ridge, as well as the staff at the NVRC, Spencer Congel and Dylan Brendel, all of their members at CitrusTV, and Senior Director of Student Engagement Michael Teagan for the time and effort they've put into making this event a success. To begin, I would like to introduce our esteemed timekeeper, Mr. Tanner Boschart, Deputy Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the Student Association, and our moderators, Chilekasi Adele and Teagan Brown. Mr. Adele, a junior broadcast journalism major, is the Assistant News Director and Programming Director at CitrusTV, and Ms. Brown, a senior broadcast journalism and history major, is an anchor and reporter. Thank you again, and enjoy the debate.
Thank you, Otto, and welcome into the 2023 Student Association Executive Debate here on CitrusTV and Orange Television Network. I'm CitrusTV's Teagan Brown.
And I'm CitrusTV's Chilekasi Adele. Tonight, we will hear from those wanting to represent you. The two tickets for SA President and Vice President will explain why they think they are best fit to represent you over the course of the next year. But before we get to that, we will start with our comptroller candidate.
This year, Dylan France is the only candidate for Student Association Comptroller. France is a junior finance major from West Orange, New Jersey. She served as an SA Assembly person, Associate Comptroller, a member of the SA Finance Board, and an undergraduate representative to the Board of Trustees. Dylan, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Dylan France, a junior finance and real estate major, global political economy minor, and I'm running to become your next comptroller. I can continue by making promises and campaign goals, but instead I would like to use this platform to first educate on what we do, and second, explain what I'll be doing, regardless of if I hold the position of comptroller, finance board member, or anything, because I care about what we put our money towards as stakeholders and students of Syracuse University. Every year, part of your tuition goes to the student activity fee pool allocated by the finance board, led by the comptroller. And so these funds are redistributed to registered student organizations, or RSOs, student services like NYPIRG and student legal services, and individuals motivated to execute programming, serve the underserved, and ultimately help students. By serving as the Associate Comptroller this semester, I've witnessed firsthand the power of the purse and how that helps students across the campus. Behind the scenes, the Finance Board has seen a deeply flawed system transform for the better, especially under the leadership of Comptroller Nia Jones these past 2 years. Under the values of transparency and change, Nia has led the effort to adopt the co-curricular funding into the semester allocations process, rebrand the entire request system, and revamp the entire tier applications. Even now, herself and I, as well as members of the ad hoc committee, are currently rewriting the fiscal codes that define almost everything regarding allocations of the student activity fee. All that to say that I will use my position in editing the fiscal codes wisely and use the knowledge of the past 3 years to hear RSO concerns. used the knowledge of the past 3 years of hearing RSO concerns, approving and denying budgets, and working as the founder and leader of an RSO myself, the Black Student Union of Syracuse University. This framework will be integral down the line as I hope to lead future allocations on the rewritten fiscal codes. Okay.
Dylan, thank you. You'll have time for a closing statement in a little while. So we'll start out with questions now. The first one being, why should students care about the comptroller role? Why should they care about the student association at large?
I definitely think that this needs to be a role that people care about because at the end of the day, most students are paying at least some portion of their tuition. And so that's extremely important to know where your money's going towards, as well as the fact that there's so many organizations on campus that are currently trying to represent you, as well as put on programming for students here. There's like almost all students like make up at least one or more organizations. And if not, you're probably going to an event. And so it's just extremely important to know what resources you have and that the comptroller is here to help you with those fiscal resources. So.
Dylan, you say in your letter of intent that you would also rework the fiscal code, something current comptroller Nia Jones also called for in her letter of intent last year. What specifically would you change, and why are these changes necessary?
Okay, so I'm going to first address the why they're necessary, and then I'll go back to what changes specifically. But they're extremely necessary because the fiscal codes are an extremely antiquated document, and they aren't necessarily addressing the true needs and current needs of the students. And so to address them, some of the major changes that we're going to make involve a lot of the wording because they're not, the wording itself isn't inclusive and doesn't necessarily direct towards what current student organizations need, and it's not necessarily what they want either. We have many people coming to us that, oh, the wording doesn't necessarily help us in the way that we want to put on program, the way that we want to have our publications go out, the way we want to promote ourselves. And so by rewriting the fiscal codes, we hope to address all those problems and continue to hear from students what they want to hear and what they need fiscally. So, yeah.
Dylan, so you told students that you shadowed current comptroller Nia Jones for the last 2 years. What did you learn from her, and what would you like to change from that perspective?
Mm-hmm. Nia is a very caring, and she cares for students probably like as much as any other person in student association. And I think that goes for all the different meetings that she's having, even remotely. She's working super hard behind the scenes, and I see it firsthand as the associate comptroller. And so I want to continue that sentiment. I also want to keep the sentiment of transparency that she's ran with for the past 2 years. She constantly reports to different allocations and everything in great detail, and so nothing's left for questioning. Like, she's constantly transparent there, so I want to continue that. I also do want to form, personally, in terms of adding to what Nia is currently doing, I want to have a more like integrated services, so that different services like food services and and SCPS that most of these organizations are requesting from, and have a more just interworking system so that people aren't confused about how to reserve those rooms, how to request food, because that is a large portion of what is requested from us and we have to deny because it's done incorrectly. So just have a lot more transparency on that end in regards to the resources that are used in the system. Nia's worked a lot more on the internally on like the budgets that we approve and we deny, and that transparency. I want to work more on like the underlying process and making that more transparent as well.
Nia, you mentioned working with the current comptroller, and you also mentioned your experience on the SA Finance Board as well. What relationships have you built with registered student organizations in your prior roles, Dylan?
So I think that, especially with registered student organizations, outside of my role as associate comptroller, where I meet with a lot of these registered student organizations, I'm a leader of a registered student organization myself, the Black Student Union, and so just there as myself, I'm constantly working with other RSOs there, and going to different events and seeing a lot of, and even like outside of my role as the president, I'm going to different events and seeing what students are putting on, because I genuinely care about what they're doing, and there's amazing events, different publications coming out, and it's just always amazing to see. So that's definitely a way that I get involved just as a student. So yeah.
And now you've said you want to expand the finance board, which you have served on. Why would this be a positive for students, and why does it need an expansion?
I definitely think it has to do with representation. I just want to clarify that when I say expansion, I just mean within the 12 seats that exist. I don't have any plans on increasing that number, but I do think that in terms of expanding it, one of the main issues, I wouldn't say issues, sorry, let me rephrase, but one of the things that I see is very important regarding the finance board is to have representation across the board to make sure that all the people that are voting for budgets are coming from all different schools, all different clubs, all different backgrounds. And so I think that in expanding the finance board, I want to try my best to use the promotional resources of SA as well as just intrinsic finance board reaching out to maybe different schools that may be underrepresented. So yeah.
Dylan France, those are just some of our questions, but we're going to come back in a few minutes after taking a brief break. So we'll be right back with Comptroller candidate Dylan France.
Thank you.
You're watching the Student Association Executive Debate on CitrusTV.
Welcome back to the Student Association Executive Debate here on CitrusTV. Teagan Brown, Chilekasi, Adele. We're here with Comptroller candidate Dylan France. And Dylan, let's resume with our question period here. You know, taking a look at the SU website, this year's student activity fee stands at $211. That's something, you know, hasn't really increased over the previous years to this year as well. Is that enough, or is it too little? What's your stance on that, and why?
I think it's definitely difficult to just answer that, especially through COVID. And so what we've seen over the past few years, especially during COVID, is that the rollover fee in terms of, not rollover fee, excuse me, the rollover or the amount of money left after each semester and each fiscal year has been larger than previous years before that. So that might have to do with part of the reason why that stays consistent, because during COVID, the same type of events that were happening pre-COVID were not happening. However, as we've seen the reopening, and then as well as the different types of events that are happening currently with the campus reopening again, though I can't speak towards it going up or down, I do think that it definitely may need to go up in the next couple of years, just knowing that the rollover will not be the same as it was before.
And now, Dylan, what can students learn from becoming involved with Finance Board? I mean, we've talked about you and your involvement with it and experience, but what can students learn in terms of financial literacy and education? What did you learn and how has it helped you outside of school?
So personally, as a finance major who's interested in investment banking, it's definitely helped a lot in terms of getting the roles I'm in today, in terms of internships as well as insight regarding just talking to different people, as well as understanding budgets on a higher level. It's definitely given me a lot of financial literacy outside of my classes, where the insight helps within my classes. And I just say overall that it just has so many benefits, and so I would highly recommend joining the finance board because it's definitely helped me as an individual and as a businesswoman. So yeah.
Dylan, what are you planning on in terms of helping to fund it, whether it's increasing funding or just fund registered student organizations of color?
I think personally, especially as a leader of a registered student organization, there's a lot of different issues regarding the fact that most of them are Tier 1 organizations, or in other words, only can receive up to $12,500 per event. And so that cap tends to definitely harm organizations, but as we've seen between the ASU-UU collaboration as well as other things, just the different collaborations that organizations have been starting to have with more higher tiered organizations, they're more knowledgeable organizations. Those types of efforts have definitely helped with that, and we want to continue to encourage that on the finance board level, given the current state of the fiscal codes, as well as in rewriting them. We hope to make it easier for those collaborations to happen so that organizations can continue to partner and work together and have that be a very fluid process.
So you've worked with Nia Jones the last 2 years, shadowing her, being on finance board, being heavily involved within this. But obviously students come forward with concerns over their RSOs and other certain financial issues on campus. What have you done to help rectify those concerns?
I think personally it's just being open to the fact that I also completely understand those concerns, because even as a member of the finance board and as associate comptroller, those concerns still come up within my own organization. And so just knowing that I personally been going through myself is like the first thing, is like the reasoning, and that I understand what you're going through. But then from there, just trying to understand what the situation stemmed from and just talking through that. I think most times with conversations that I've had with different organizations and understanding where the root came from, and then redirecting them to different resources on campus, as well as just the different processes that you can use through the finance board. For example, for non-registered student organizations, there is like a current outstanding process for that, and that's so underused within finance board requests. And so that's just a single example of things I would refer people to on a day-to-day.
Dylan, one thing that people always crave from government is transparency. What's your plan down the road to either keep transparency where it is or increase it among RSOs, and how do you plan to achieve that?
So I definitely think under the leadership of Naya, she started the weekly reports where she would explain not only like what got denied and what got approved, but also as to why, and then leaving her door open so that no one is confused as to why they got denied, why they were approved, and how the contingencies work. I want to continue that effort, and then also implement different weekly or bi-weekly notices, specifically with the different resources that I spoke about earlier, because many events, they end up requesting food or they end up requesting spaces, and because you have to have an event in a space and you most likely want to have food. And so those are the two key large requests that we continue to receive. And so I want to have that interconnected relationship with food services so that it's much easier to request that food or have SEPS be represented in the different emails and communications coming out from student activities and from student engagement.
Dylan, thank you so much for those answers. We're going to move now to your closing statement. You'll once again have 2 minutes, just like with your opening.
Okay. First, thank you to all the moderators and the Board of Elections for helping to put on this debate, and for CitrusTV for covering the event. I had an amazing time speaking to everyone here. To conclude, my name is Dylan France, and I'm running to become your next comptroller. Know that I will be working and will continue to advocate about what we put our money towards, as we are stakeholders and students at Syracuse University. Thank you.
Dylan France, thank you so much. We're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to talk to our 2 tickets for presidential and VP candidates. Stick with us on OTN.
to an excellent episode of Live from Studio B.
You're watching the Student Association Executive Debate on CitrusTV.
Tonight, two campaigns will answer questions about their experience as well as issues on campus. Welcome back to the NVRC and the SA Executive Debate on CitrusTV. Teagan Brown, Chilekasi, Adele. Let's get to know this year's candidates.
Absolutely. On one of the tickets, we have William Treloar, and he is running for president alongside his VP pick, Yasmin Nehrouz. William is a junior from Woodstock, New York. He's an econ and policy studies major. In the Student Association, he served as an assembly person, SA's COVID policy director, speaker pro tempore, and speaker of the assembly.
Yasmin is also a junior. She's from Rochester, New York, and majors in public relations and English. Nehru's is a former assembly member and served 2 years as the VP of University Affairs.
And on the other ticket, we have Elliot Salas with his VP pick, Brendan Murdy. Elliot is a junior who comes to SU by way of Houston, Texas, and Seattle, Washington. He's an electrical engineering major who served as an SA Assembly member.
Brendan is a junior from Lancaster, New York. That's near Buffalo. He's an aerospace engineering major. We'll start again with opening statements. Each pair will have 2 minutes total. Elliot and Brendan, we'll have you start.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elliot Salas. I am from Houston, Texas, and I'm a junior studying electrical engineering. Alongside me is my future vice president, Brendan Murdy. He is from Buffalo, New York, and currently studying aerospace engineering. And I can assure you that by the end of tonight, our responses will be out of this world. When it comes to professionally speaking, we are here tonight to only convince you of one thing: why you should vote for us. When it comes to leadership opportunities, I have been involved around campus in every aspect you can think of. From a Q's First leader to an orientation leader to being on the Take Back the Night committee, a team of students that focus on bringing awareness to interpersonal violence and sexual harassment. Furthermore, I've been a part of SA since freshman year, first being in the sustainability committee, improving the trash and waste management on campus and dining halls, to transferring within the engagement outreach committee, making flyers promoting inclusive events such as Black History Month and activities that students can participate on campus. Currently, I am the president of the Food Recovery Network, collecting food from every dining hall on campus at the end of the day and donating it to people in need across Syracuse instead of having it be thrown away.
As Elliot mentioned, I am Brendan Murty, and I would be a great fit for this position because of my involvement as a leader within the student body. I'm a Renee Crown Honor student as an engineering major, which has proved to be no easy feat. The program has given me the opportunity to take more diverse courses and to find new volunteer experiences. I am thankful for honors, and I believe it has shaped me into a better peer leader. For example, I became treasurer of Orbit at SU, the Rocket Club. I was also an LLCRA last year, where I became a role model and a guide for new students. I helped carry out many initiatives for my residents so they could learn how to connect into the beautiful and diverse campus community. Finally, I served the SU ESF Catholic community as a peer leader, pushing for more student service opportunities. Overall, I feel this campus has given me so much, and I feel the position of EVP will allow me to give back more to the community alongside my running mate, Elliot. By the end of the night, we invite you to support us, our ideas, and our vision to create a better Syracuse community.
Elliot and Brendan, thank you. And just like Dylan, you'll have a chance for a closing statement at the end. We will move now to William and Yasmin. You also have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
First, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I'd like to answer one of the most common questions I've been asked. What is student association? For most people, the only members of student associations they know are the ones that send them emails. However, as Speaker of the Assembly, I've seen that the organization is a group of students who are dedicated to making positive change on campus. I've been proud to be one of these people for the past 3 years, and I hope that through this debate, we will show all of you that we are the most qualified candidates to lead Student Association. I've spent the last 3 years working on a variety of different initiatives, but the one connecting theme throughout all of them was constant conversations with students to understand what they wanted from their campus. Whether it was Harvest Fest or the student response to the DEIA strategic plan, I have worked to amplify student voices and create a campus community that benefits all students. We have been passionate about helping students since our first semester at SU. I know tonight Yasmin and I will prove that we have the dedication, experience, and passion that is needed to get the job done.
When I started my Syracuse journey, it was 2020 and the pandemic was redefining what it means to be a college campus, to be a college student on a college campus. To me, it revealed just how important and meaningful those on-campus experiences are. Like Will, I've been a part of student associations since my freshman year, and while I've worked on several initiatives that I'm proud of, I still have so much left to give. To start, I created our grocery trolley initiative, which has been greatly successful. I've worked tirelessly on the last 2 annual mental health awareness weeks. I've been bringing student concerns to the Barnes Center as I advocate for students' physical and mental well-being, and I wrote the resolution that led to the implementation of wellness days as a fall break. Will and I have dedicated our work to improving the student experience. As president and executive vice president, we will continue to do just that, because this campaign is not about us. It is about making sure that student needs are the #1 priority of this university. Thank you.
Yasmin and William, thank you so much. Each candidate will have time to speak at the end of the debate and closing statements as well, but we'll move on to questions for now. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer the question. If your opponent mentions your name, then you may have 30 seconds for rebuttal. Elliot and Brendan, we'll start with you again, and we'll start with this. On Monday, SA's Board of Elections released the findings of an investigation saying that both of you claimed someone as being on your ticket who did not consent to doing so. As a result, your campaign activities were suspended for 2 days, this past Tuesday and Wednesday, and you were fined $10 as well. Why should people trust you after this situation?
Of course, that's completely understandable that the fact that this information was released, but in reality, the only thing that happened was a form of miscommunication. Unfortunately, I texted the wrong number, and that person was my friend who was messing around with me, and I didn't text the person who I thought we spoke with accordingly, and so it looked a little bit indiscreet there, but to be honest, I've even apologized to Otto. It was a form of an essay, like, hey, like, this was a miscommunication. I'm not here trying to look like I'm trying to manipulate or be deceptive. It was something that happened by accident. It wasn't done on purpose.
All right. We will move on to William and Yasmin next. So SA recently announced it would form a council to advise students in preparation for the new Micron plant that's coming to Clay, as was announced last year. Is this something that you support, and why?
Absolutely. I was incredibly honored to be selected to sit on the council and meet with many Micron executives to talk about their place in the Syracuse community. They discussed an $100 billion investment over the next 20 years. That is incredible. For a city that has been struggling, and for a university that needs to help it more. Micron offers a chance to bring many, many good-paying jobs back to Syracuse. But it also offers a chance to bolster this university, as Micron will be hiring many of our wonderful graduates from the ECS school. They will be building the campus around us, and they'll be building around the city too. What's going to be most important is to make sure that student needs are also a priority for Micron, to make sure that we are sending them our best students and making sure that the university is able to create students that will fill those jobs that Micron is looking for. We are excited to be a part of the council because we see a massive step forward for Syracuse. And what's most important is that we are looking to not just our community here at Syracuse University, but the surrounding community as well. Because if we don't lift up the community around us, we can't go up ourselves.
We can speak about.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, I think I want to play devil's advocate. And Micron, while it does bring good jobs and opportunities to Syracuse, and it will hopefully develop it more, I think Micron is more on the side of hurting the sustainability, which is a vision or a value that we both share and that we've hoped to bring more into SU. Sure, more technology is great, but having to impact the environment as such, at a sacrifice, it's something that we must look at and make sure that it's restricted.
Before we move on to our next question, we wanted to give William and Yasmin a chance to answer to the first question as well. Our apologies, we did not allow them to answer the first question.
Starting off with the investigation into your...
Absolutely.
Yep.
We have nothing to say. We contacted all of our ticket members directly, made sure that they confirmed with us and wanted to be on our ticket, and we have no issues with that.
We've been following rules and we're proud of our campaign ticket.
Thank you. Moving on, Elliot and Brendan, SA just represents SU's undergraduate students, but is there a role for advocacy when it comes to graduate students or other populations on campus?
Yeah, definitely. Grad students are, believe it or not, I feel like are heavily populated on campus. And if they're currently, I feel like they're actually being underspoken. There's even a rally or a protest, and if we're not paying attention to them, then who are we as undergrads, making sure that this Syracuse University is seen as a home rather than just a battleground. It should be somewhere where everyone is unified.
Yeah, at least turning the university into a more collaborative state with the grad students that otherwise we don't usually hear the opinion from with SA. I think especially just because Syracuse is such a research-oriented university, it is very important because personally in our college and as many other colleges, there are so many programs that are thankfully promoted for students to go further and take the next step into a graduate degree. So I think just finding a way to get more input from them at the very least is definitely very important.
Graduate students are a critical role, especially because we engage with them a lot in our courses and discussion sections. I'm sure we have some as TAs. And we actually do have a GSO representative seat within Student Association. And under our administration, we will fill that seat with a voice that can advocate for graduate students so we can directly speak with them. We'll ensure a constant communication and dialogue with the graduate student organization, as well as further support. Student Association has already supported their union efforts, and we plan to further that and advocate for that and welcome them to our assembly meetings so they can bring their concerns and we can work with them.
I'd also just like to say I was greatly honored to deliver our letter of support from Student Association to the Graduate Student Labor Union alongside David Bruin. And that day was such a powerful moment because it was us standing up to support graduate students in all of their endeavors. While we hope to work with GSO to make this campus better, they have their own student government that has been doing a fantastic job. We just hope to collaborate more with them to understand what they need from Student Association so we can best support all students on campus.
And now Student Association isn't the only representative body that we've seen created on campus. We also have other organizations such as the Mexican Student Association. So William and Yasmin, we'll start with you. How do you envision working with these other associations that are representing the students that you're also representing if elected?
We plan to further establish partnerships with multicultural organizations. From the beginning, we plan to reach out, have them know that they can always come to us. Additionally, we want to further collaborations and work with them on initiatives such as Mental Health Awareness Week, make sure multicultural orgs are incorporated into that. We also do have Multicultural Week, work with them on that, as well as expand and look at other organizations, including, for instance, the Student Bar Association. I know we've already looked into them and they've helped us in developing, for instance, a career closet that we're looking into building.
When I was a freshman here, one idea that was proposed to me by Adriana Lobo, the first committee chair ever had in Student Association, she had this idea to put on Student Association on tour. Because a lot of students don't know about us, and they don't know about what we do. But we would go as individuals from organization to organization to tell students what we can do for them, tell them how we can support them the best way we can. Our plan is to help initiate that going forward with Armand Novolis, so that we can go from organization to organization, ask them what issues they're facing on campus, and tell them what resources we have available to them to make sure that we are doing our best to support every student.
Elliot and Brendan.
Of course, this is a great topic that you brought up, MSA, because I am Mexican, soy Mexicano, and that's great. And matter of fact, I actually helped founded that club with Yvonne as the president. I lectured her to make sure how to start an RSO, and that was great. But seeing that perspective, I think, walking back to Student Association, the first thing that every single RSO looks for is funding, and Student Association is their #1 source of income. So if we make sure that we make those steps easy when it comes to either agency training or physical training, making sure that every RSO knows what it means to how to access funding and how to even get approved or denied, which is a very, very big problem when it comes to that. That would be great. We can build that bridge and make sure that every RSO has a chance to make an impact.
And just as one more little tidbit, I feel like that starts with an outreach from a human perspective and not so much just sending emails out to every listserv that we have on campus. I feel like that's something that gets very overplayed nowadays with our school. And it's very easy, as I see many of my peers, to just see an email go by and get shuffled into the loop of just whatever, and you don't notice it anymore. So I think just going out and engaging with the officers of these organizations at a human perspective and getting a conversation going in real terms rather than just an email would be better too.
Elliot and Brendan, Syracuse University's grad student workers are having a union election in early April to determine whether Syracuse Grad Employees United will have its union recognized and then move on to making a collective bargaining agreement with SU if that vote is yes. What is your stance on this, and is this something that undergraduate workers should also pursue? Would the Student Association recognize such a union?
Absolutely. Grad students, in fact, I have a lot of friends who are grad students, and I mentioned the grad student union in my first question, or my second question, and it's very important that their voices are heard. I feel like there is some sort of wall between the admin and the grad students, and the fact that they're even rallying is an issue in itself because that shouldn't be happening in the first place. If there is a way for, their voices can be heard immediately and making sure that their action, whatever it is that they need, can be taken care of like at a fast pace, we will be there to be there by their side to make sure that happens.
As I stated earlier, I'm incredibly proud to co-author the bill that was Student Association support for the Graduate Student Labor Union. It was an incredible bill. It was great to see that we were able to support our graduate students in the best way we can, because their working conditions are our learning conditions. They are your friends. They are on campus with you. You can't differentiate a grad student from an undergraduate student. It's almost impossible when you just see them on the street. That's because they're here learning with us, they're living here, and they're working under horrible conditions with pay that is barely livable in Syracuse University. They are teaching our classes, they are grading our papers, and yet they are getting paid basically nothing with no opportunity to get another job. We are in full support of the labor union because graduate students should have access to collective bargaining, because they should be able to work together to make sure that their conditions improve, and we will do everything in our power to support them at every single step of the process.
Additionally, this is a concern for undergrad students as well, because many undergrad students will choose whether to continue for a graduate program within Syracuse or not, and the results of this union efforts will be influential in that.
Now, if elected, you would be representing thousands of SU students, but you would also be representing students from SUNY ESF right next door. We'll start out with William and Yasmin again. What have you done to get to understand the experiences of ESF students and just personally interact with them?
I'm absolutely thrilled to say that for the first time in we don't even know how long, we can't even look back in the history books and check. Every ESF rep student seat in the assembly is filled. As speaker, I have the first speaker that is still around that can say, I have seen 3 full ESF representative seats. And they have been wonderful members of assembly, bringing unique perspectives, talking about issues that we may not even know exist. As long as those seats stay filled and ESF students feel comfortable coming into our office, talking about the issues they're facing, we are absolutely thrilled to address them. We want to work with ESF reps, and we hope that their leadership within the org only continues to grow with us as president and vice president.
We've also already opened dialogue into working with them. For instance, I reached out to Silas, the current president of the ESF Student Association, the Mighty Oaks, and we're looking into developing further programming with them. So we have already opened dialogue with them, and we're excited to further that.
Elliot and Brendan.
ESF students, in my opinion, are pretty greater than SU students, I'm sorry. And I mean that in a very nonchalant way. I come from a low-income family, and ESF students are from a low-income background, and I can connect with them immediately instead of SU students. And matter of fact, I've even been in a dorm in ESF, and having that sort of perspective of, yes, I know where you're coming from, I know what it is, what's going on. I think it deserves more than just opening your doors to student association. I think it deserves more of just, coming out there, being yourself and talking to more SUNY kids, because I feel like they're kind of isolated. They have their ID, student SU ID, and I feel like they barely even go to Barnes Center, they barely even go to Shine, and that needs to change. They need to know that we are also here to help them, not just make them feel isolated.
Yeah, I just feel like in every aspect of what the college does and uses its platform to do for pushing out different student resources, engagement opportunities, just overall, I feel that they should be treated like they are just SU students. Because personally, any interactions, I feel like after having a great conversation with someone, I find out later that they were an ESF student. So for me, they're just another student that I'm very happy to be a part of.
Elliot and Brendan, in 2014, SU was ranked among the top 50 best of the best LGBTQ plus friendly colleges by Campus Pride, but it hasn't made the list since. How do you plan to make LGBTQ plus students feel welcomed and accepted by this university?
Yeah, if you mind if I can start. OMA, which is a very big resource on campus located in Shine, they help out a lot with LGBTQ plus, and considering that I also come from a minority standpoint, I get it, I feel it, underrepresented, and that's the first time I'm hearing that, and I'm really disappointed. If that's really that's facts, and I plan to make sure that doesn't happen again, and maybe make it number 1, make SU be number 1. Maybe putting more than just flags on the quad, maybe have a rally, maybe have a speaker, maybe have some sort of, maybe an office where people who feel like they need to be more represented needs to be there. That's my opinion.
First, I just want to say, I'm a proud queer student on this campus. Incredibly proud. And while, yes, I've faced discrimination, I've heard horrible things said about it, I've been asked uncomfortable questions, and I've been in scenarios where I haven't felt safe as a queer student on this campus, I have found communities of people that will do nothing but support me, that will fight tooth and nail to support me, and all queer students on this campus. I hope to create a community on this campus where queer students feel supported and connected to this campus. I want to know that incidents that like what happened in Watson will never happen again on this campus. That is going to involve very clear campus reporting of bias incidents. That is going to involve very intentional campus conversations about the queer identity on campus. And that is going to involve every student on this campus turning around to support one another and make sure that bigotry is never accepted on this campus.
All right. Well, William, you just mentioned it briefly, but we reported earlier this month on homophobic graffiti written in Watson Hall bathrooms back in February. DPS's protocol says that bias incidents reported to DPS that, quote, implicate possible criminal acts are published on the department's website within 48 hours. DPS says it also can wait if posting that information would impact an active investigation. DPS did not post this incident online within 48 hours of the report. Does the department need to change this protocol, and how will you work with the department to ensure transparency? William, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. We agree that there needs to be more transparency and they should have acted quicker on that. It's important that we know as soon as it happens, and whoever commits these acts, they need to be punished, not just given warnings, so that they never happen again, and we take a clear stance on that. We need to change the campus culture, and it needs to change to a point where this is not acceptable, and this is done through education and awareness, and also, as you mentioned, working with DPS. Part of Student Association is having a community review board within DPS, and that includes looking at their training, including looking at how they respond to such bias incidents, and we plan to approach that in an intersectional lens.
I would also like to point out that our current Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion, Jordan Beasley, has taken absolutely incredible steps to move forward with making that reporting much clearer and making sure that their policies are followed to a T to make sure that students feel safe and understand what is happening on this campus. We want to continue with that work, to work with administration to make policies that work for all students so that no one feels unsafe or unheard.
Elliot and Brendan.
Well, let's be honest. DPS has not done a good job, and clearly looking at policies isn't doing the work either. DPS, I live in South Campus, a lot of robberies happen there, and whose fault is it? Fingers point to DPS. What does this mean? Clearly that the tactics that we're using on student association isn't clearly working right now. What we need to do is probably look at it at a different perspective. Look at what other campuses are doing. Maybe do more than just the blue light system. Maybe implement another security system that protects students who are on South Campus. DPS clearly needs a lot of rework.
I feel like a lot of it also just stems from the disrespect for DPS sometimes, because personally I try to treat them as if they are a real police officer, and they do many of things that real police officers do. When it comes to these kinds of incidents that happen, when we turn back and see that the response time was not good enough, I think that just points to they're not receiving enough support. And from the student body that they are here to protect, I think it takes more outreach from us as well to go. Not to say that they're the only issue. I think that we also, as students, can use the platform of SA to push for more of a response. Show them the support that we need.
Guys, thank you so much. When we come back, more questions with the presidential and vice presidential candidates. Stay with us.
You're watching the Student Association Executive Debate on CitrusTV.
Welcome back to the Student Association Executive Debate. Chilekasi Adele joined alongside Teagan Brown. We're going to continue talking to our presidential and vice presidential candidates tonight.
Elliot and Brennan will continue with you now. We've seen students use their First Amendment right to protest actions or lack thereof by the university. We talk about Not Again SU, recently Stand With Survivors in 2021. If something similar were to happen during your term, what kind of actions would you take?
Yeah, Not Again SU, very big event. People rallying, protesting outside. I think we should need to do something at a different approach. If something were to happen again, which I hope it doesn't, and we can learn from each mistake. If it were to happen again, I feel like we need to take it up straight to the person in terms of maybe who organized this event, who was the person, how were they influenced, what was their background, what led them to this incident that could probably help us find out, well, why is it happening in the first place? In terms of student association, if you found this, I think it's, instead of putting that person on the pedestal and like everyone laugh at that person because they did something wrong, rather than just go up to him, see what it is that they need to support, find out the reason of why this happened and fix it.
And I think in a more physical way that looks like writing a new response for these kind of high-level incidents. I feel like the protocol is probably not as clear-cut as it should be. I mean, every situation is different, but at least having more of a general guideline and maybe focusing on that, just so we are prepared for if something like that would to happen. Yeah.
Students have the right to protest. There should be no hindrances to that. Additionally, racism and sexual assault is a nationwide issue, but to better understand it on our campus, we need more statistics. The university should begin to collect and publish statistics, specifically with Title IX, which I believe is already being worked on. So we need more transparency with that to better address and see where the concerns are. Underreporting is a big issue, and we need to hold the university accountable to make sure they're looking into that and they're doing that research. And we need to also push for state, local, and federal laws to make survivors feel more comfortable in reporting so that this doesn't happen again.
Also, there's still a few members of Student Association who were involved in the Not Again SU protests. While we want to work to make sure that we never reach that boiling point ever again, and we want to work with admin to make sure that happens, we also want students to know when this university is not safe for them, when this university is not welcoming for them, when they are attacked and they are threatened on this campus, we will always support students. So if we reach that boiling point again, we will ally with our own morals to support students every time we can.
And now we'll talk about voting within the Student Association debate later on, but we have the 2024 presidential debate coming up. What is the importance of voting to you, and do you plan to encourage other students on campus to not just register to vote, but actually go out and do it? William and Yasmin, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. So Student Association has a permanent initiative that hasn't been active in recent years, but we hope to make active especially this year and going forward into next year, and that is CUSE Auto Vote. Auto, like Auto. All right. Well, we also work with NIPERG relatively constantly while they do their voter registration. As a presidential election comes up, it is important that as many students as possible are voicing their opinions, that we make sure our polling locations are as close to campus as possible, that we spread information about absentee ballots, that we tell students and we disseminate information to students as much as possible about voting, because while we are in no way want to force any student to vote in any election, we do believe that it is everyone's civic duty to vote, and we want to make as easy of an access as you can to voting on this campus.
Student voices matter, not just on campus, but nationally, and we plan to ensure that by using our outlets such as social media and campus-wide emails to inform them when the debate happens on how they can vote and get involved.
Elliot and Brendan?
Yes, Student Association also has this side outlet called NIPERG. When I was first here in Syracuse freshman year, I actually was taken on a bus to a voting center and I voted, which was amazing. I never thought I could do that in the state of New York as a Texan. It was weird, but I liked it. And the fact that I think I never saw that again. So why don't we just implement more of those? The main problem when it comes to voting is, I can assure you, is one, laziness, and two, transportation. People don't like to walk. They don't want to make the effort to go do the vote, so why don't we do the work for them? Let's get a bus, let's get a trolley, let's like announce it, let's march, I don't know. But something along those lines that shows people that we have accessibility to that sort of, resource that is crucial.
Yeah, I also feel like just setting up some sort of event during the election time, specifically for absentee ballots, because I feel like that is one of the most convenient ways to get your vote in, if you unfortunately don't have the time to go and actually vote in person. Because personally, I've had to do that coming from a different place. But yeah, just having a big, like some sort of event to be more of a reminder for students to come and make sure that they do have a voice.
Elliot and Brendan, meal swipes and Shine have been something talked about over the past few years. SU implemented them during COVID to alleviate crowds at the dining halls, but that's something that no longer exists today. The current administration pushed for meal swipes to return to Shine. Is this something you will or will not continue to push for?
Absolutely. I was here during the era of Kimmel, which was awesome because we get to eat past midnight. However, Kimmel does not exist. Haagen-Dazs does not exist, and I believe Shine closes at like 12. I don't know. I do know that before I even came, Kimmel opened past 2 a.m. That's insane. I never knew that we could do that. But none of that resources exist. Meal swipes is crucial so that students with low-income backgrounds that clearly don't have the resources. I mean, I come here on a full ride, and I barely can get by with a meal plan. If I was able to get Panda Express with my meal swipe instead of being pull money out of my pocket, it would save me lots of money, and I assure you it would save lots of low-income students too.
I feel that also taking a look at how the meal swipes are priced at the dining halls for breakfast, lunch, dinner, being I think lunch is about $15 some, the dinner is just over 20, I believe, which is still kind of crazy to hear, but I think taking it from that perspective, if the university is going to value a meal swipe at that kind of value, then the kinds of prices that you see at Shine are always just under that at least. So I think that would be a very well thought out idea.
In the past few weeks, I got to co-author another bill about bringing meal swipes back to Shine, which was a commitment of Student Association to working with administration to get those back. And then recently, I got to talk to some wonderful other students that were discussing how many dining halls close well before classes end. Classes can go well up until 9. Dining halls, not open that late. Well, what's the solution here? We know we have a staffing shortage in the dining halls. We know it's really hard to find student workers right now. We already have another dining location that's open that late, that has pre-prepared meals like Good Uncle downstairs that is open that late. Bringing meal swipes back to Shine would solve many of the issues with the dining halls, where it would allow students to maybe just grab a reheatable Good Uncle meal and a pack of Skittles. It's not that serious. We can fix all of these issues by being able to re-implement the meal swipes back into Shine.
Additionally, I've already looked into this. I spoke with the new COO about looking into adding meal swipes back into Shine, and I think that's a lot of what we have to do is just keep putting the pressure that if we need some form of this to re-enter our lives, and there's multiple ways we can look at that.
Now, being, president and vice president of Student Association, it's not only the relationships with students that you're trying to cultivate, it's relationships with faculty, staff, and the Chancellor, Ken Syverud. Could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with the Chancellor? William and Yasmin, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. I just want to dispel something super quick. Every member of Student Association isn't just regularly meeting with the Chancellor. That's regularly something that's reserved for the President and Vice President. But the established relationships that we've built with the faculty and staff at this university, I think are indicative of our ability to work with administration. I think that the positive relationships we've built on all sorts of aspects of campus with administration are going to show what our relationship with the Chancellor would look like if elected, and that is one of mutual aid. We're here to work with them. We're here to give them student input. We're here to aggregate student voices so that they understand what students need on their campus, because they're not walking around in your classes every day, and they're not in Shine grabbing food, grabbing a bite to eat with students. No, that's us with other students. So we're able to provide them a diverse perspective on what the student experience really looks like here at CUSE. And we hope to bring that to the Chancellor as well.
Elliot and Brendan?
Of course. Every year, we are both part of the SU Catholic Center, and we are happily obliged to eat at dinner with the Chancellor's house every fall. So it's amazing. We have mass and dinner, and we get to talk, and we get to sit down and eat. Matter of fact, he even gave me a tour of his house. I saw all his restrooms upstairs. It was extra fancy. It was amazing. But overall, we have that connection. Speaking of, however, while we do have that established connection, I feel like there's an issue of the fact that the faculty and the students, rather than just a personal connection. There's a gap there for sure, and we plan to fix that. Brendan actually had a Zoom call with the Chancellor.
With the Chancellor, yeah. I feel like finding the organizations that would have an outreach to the Chancellor, such as SA, can be a better way for more students to connect with him and share ideas and give him thoughts, because at the end of the day, he's the guiding leader of Syracuse University, and anything that we are going to try to do further, definitely I think should gauge some input from him.
Elliot and Brendan, something students are always talking about here at SU is financial accessibility. We have the cost of attendance here, hovering around, increasing around $80,000. What real policies would you implement or work with the university on to either freeze or decrease that cost of attendance?
Oh, decrease the cost of attendance. Interesting. Well,
either freeze it or decrease it.
Oh, okay. As I stated before, I come from a very low-income family. The school gives me a lot of scholarships, but looking at that sticker price of $80,000 is immense. Decreasing, I don't like that idea. However, I do think it needs to be thought of. Why do I say I don't like it? It's because if we decrease it, that means we're going to take away out of the stuff that we have right now away from students, and that's the last thing that we want. If this is an issue, of course, but we need to take it at a very strategic approach. If we say we want to decrease the tuition, then they might take the meal swipes away from Shine. They might, take away things from us that, we want. We can't have our cake and eat it too. We need to, think about it and make sure that the decision that we're making is correct. And yes, while I do agree that we should decrease it, I think we should be careful with this subject.
Decreasing tuition sounds amazing, but that's exactly what it is. It just sounds amazing. I don't think realistically that is possible. If we could advocate for it, I think we would. The president especially will be speaking with the board of trustees. And I think what we need to do is push for the current costs that all students face and address them in different ways, such as pushing for more scholarships, more funding, more opportunities, and looking at different avenues and making sure that admin definitely freezes and does not raise tuition, because especially with just the economy in general, there are rising pressuring costs outside of just tuition.
And even after an almost 10% increase in tuition recently, we actually saw some departments at this university saw some budget cuts. We saw rollbacks of different services across campus. So I don't think it is about decreasing tuition or increasing tuition. It is about the allocation of the funds to make sure that it's going towards services that support as many students as possible, not services that support maybe 10 or 15 of them. It's about making sure that all students have access to tutoring and community engagement opportunities. The allocation of the funds is truly the issue, not the amount.
So both tickets have talked a little bit about transportation or lack thereof here on campus. So recently, our John Perrick reported that Zipcar had ended its service on SU's campus, again providing a barrier for some students to get around off campus, around central New York. How will you work to increase accessibility for people who don't have cars, that easy way of getting off campus whenever they would like? William and Yasmin.
This is a key concern of mine, transportation. I started our grocery trolley initiative because of this, because I noticed many students do not have cars and they cannot access grocery stores. I've been working with the Department of Parking and Transportation to hopefully make that a regular route, a part of them. And looking at Zipcar and its removal, we are open to working with other organizations and businesses. For instance, we're looking into developing a partnership with VO, which is utilized heavily by students, so that is an alternative to Zipcar that we are already looking into. And we have that dialogue with the Department of Parking and Transportation as well to see what they can do to improve their transportation responding to student concerns such as this.
VO is a very bad initiative, and I was here when it was implemented when Justine was president. I love scooters, but the fact that there's now a scooter pollution across campus, being thrown across the street and stuff like that, that is a huge problem. I am all for other forms of transportation. As I stated before, I live in South Campus, and the main problem that people have with South Campus is the buses. So when I heard about the news about Zipcar, that was absolutely devastating news. I used Zipcar my first semester at South, and it was so useful. And the fact that that was discontinued I'm flabbergasted. And I need to find a way. We need to find a way to make sure that this is a perfect form of transportation, which is why our motto of sustainability, we're actually thinking about implementing a mini shuttle bus, which is actually, it could be taken around South Campus, AI-driven, electrical, so good for the environment. And again, another issue of why we can probably find out this issue that we have of transportation.
Let's talk about issues revolving around the environment. You know, grocery stores here in New York State cannot use plastic bans after a ban in March 2020. We've seen that replicated by other states. You know, you go most places around here, you can't get a plastic bag. But, you know, if you take a look at the Shine Student Center, there are plastic bags in there where people can wrap their food and whatnot. Is this something you'll push to change or eliminate?
Yes.
I believe it is very important, especially with things like Shine. And I think it's gone unnoticed after the transition for grocery stores, that places like, Shine on campus and different places where they have plastic bags and things like that. I think definitely pushing for a transition, especially with the way the university handles things, is definitely very important to get some sort of change for that.
Grocery bags, to-go boxes, you know, this thing was actually established back when I was working as supervisor at Graham, and maybe even thinking about even more sustainable actions, maybe a to-go mug. I know they sell ones at the cafes, but why sell one? Why not give it to the students? And that way we can reduce environment.
Yeah, and going one step further, I think, for example, Wegmans has reusable bags, and I think definitely something like that for Shine, because of how many students you see walking out with their food anyway and putting it in a plastic bag. For example, piggybacking off of what grocery stores have already done to take a step further from just transitioning to paper bags. They do things like having a reusable bag that is more cloth, that's more something that you can be using all over again. Yeah,
absolutely.
And now, an issue that has been talked about. Oh, excuse me. Yes, absolutely.
So first, I just want to give an enormous shout out to the people who wrote the sustainability report that Student Association put out at the end of last semester. Harrison Vogt, Olivia Carreri, Ben Cavara, and David Bruin did incredible work to help write a report about how Syracuse University could go single-use plastic-free and carbon neutral by 2030. And now, through conversations with the Chancellor, they are making sure that that will be implemented. And we hope to continue that. They've already done the heavy lifting. They've been able to create this lengthy report. So I don't blame you if you didn't read it, but we both did. And we see very, very intricate, complex suggestions in ways that we can change our behaviors on campus, change very fundamental parts about the buildings on campus, using geothermal power to make sure that we can lower our carbon impact, while also being able to renegotiate contracts within the university to eliminate single-use plastics. Those are all things that we want to continue to fight for. But the people who have started that are still here. We just want to take their ideas and bring it to the next year.
And now let's move on from sustainability and talk about an issue that's kind of been talked about at length on campus. People getting shifted to South Campus as an influx of freshmen came in at the beginning of the year. SU had to make makeshift dorm rooms out of the Sheraton, a converted sorority house, and the Marley Education Center. How will you work with the university to ensure that students, particularly sophomores, will have enough housing on North Campus going forward?
A key point of that is to bring that student concern to admin. So like I mentioned, I met with the new COO and I brought up this concern with him, and he told me they are already looking into developing new housing. That the only concern with that is that does take years to build. But that isn't in the works, and we are looking at that, and we are bringing up that concern with administration already, and we will ensure to keep putting pressure on that in the following years and encourage them to also look at potentially other avenues.
Also, when the Academic Strategic Plan visited Student Association Assembly back in the fall, we actually had to have great conversations with them about ensuring an unsurpassed student experience for all students by making sure that the student class that we're taking in won't be forced to displace other students. So, because this is a major issue that students were bringing up, this is something we discussed with them. And while our projections can be as close to perfect as we want, they're never going to be perfect. And that admitted class is never going to get that perfect number of students. We can't guarantee that there won't ever be an over-admittance again, but we can make sure is that campus is prepared for it so that the student experience is never deteriorated for students who are already here.
I disagree. I was here when that issue happened. I was an orientation leader, and moving into students at the Marley Education Center was a disaster. And of course, that was the issue. It sounds like from the other side that maybe they don't know the issue. The issue was over admittance, and you can't avoid that. You can avoid that by making sure that you actually reserve spaces for the people who early decided. You can make sure that the people who admitted or thinking about early action or anything like that is well maintained. And that way you can avoid people living in sorority houses when they shouldn't be, especially in their first year on campus. And we know where the cause of the issue is, and so I can assure you that if we were elected, we can handle that so it never happens again.
Yeah, and the best way to do that would be just using the voice of SA to push and to talk to the people who are handling these issues, because obviously SA has no bearing on how many students Syracuse University admits and how this issue came about. But I think the role of SA in this situation would be to do as it's always done and be the voice of the students to let them know what the issues are.
Yasmin, you asked for a rebuttal?
Thank you. All right, I would just like to first point out in that after COVID, our retention rate was all over the place. For how many students were going to go, with a lot of uncertainty, that was really difficult for students who were coming into Syracuse during COVID. Because of a difference in the retention rate, the difference in admitted students also changed. But if the other side genuinely believes that they can just change the retention rate, or that they could just change the amount of students we admit because we're student association, that's simply false. The best thing we can do is make sure that this campus is prepared when it happens.
You guys were directly mentioned as well, I believe.
Yes. Maybe it was a form of miscommunication, but more of it was pointing on the lines of, it's not that we're trying to lower the retention rate, it's more of like, we know what the issue was, and so we know how to communicate with the specific people and more, not like the result that was suggested.
Thank you all again. When we come back, we're going to speed up the pace a little bit, our lightning round with questions from you when we come back.
Do you want to get my notes?
You're watching the Student Association Executive Debate on CitrusTV.
Welcome back once again to the Student Association Executive Debate. I'm Teagan Brown, joined alongside Chilekasi Adele. We talked to our presidential and vice presidential candidates together, but now we just have our two presidential candidates up here, William Treloar and Elliot Salas. So, guys, we are going to ask lightning round questions. These are questions directly sourced from the students. They're the ones asking these. They're just coming out of our mouths. So we're going to start out with William. You will each have 1 minute to answer. No chance for rebuttals. You'll get a 10-second warning. So, starting out, what lessons have you learned during your time in student association that have prepared you for you to serve as president?
The one important lesson that I've learned is that every single student cares about this campus. Every student here has an issue that they think about. They see things on campus that they want changed. They know about issues on campus that they'd like to vocalize, but they don't have the opportunity to do it. When we table, when we send out surveys, when we talk to students directly, when we make the office an open space that students can come into, they tell us about issues that we haven't even conceptualized on campus. And that is the most important thing that I've learned. Because what is most important about being president is being able to address the concerns that students have. And if you believe that students don't have any issues, then you're not going to be able to create effective policy. But when you're open to talking to students all the time, whether it was No Problem Too Small or the Student Body Needs Survey, we were talked to hundreds of students, and we were able to create dozens of different initiatives that were very effective at addressing student concerns.
Elliot?
I actually have the opposite opinion. And that is the reason being is, yeah, we want to create change, but how are we supposed to do that with over 200 followers on Instagram when there's like, I don't know, 7,000 kids in this school? Obviously, there's a huge issue. Nobody knows that we exist. Matter of fact, if you look around this auditorium, the only people who are here are from a student association and CitrusTV. What does that mean? It means that we can't create change if there's nobody who knows that we exist. We need to make sure that not only just make change, but outreach. You know, I'll go up to every single RSO if I have to and say, hey, we exist, you need help, I'm here. That's the thing that I wanted to implement, and that's the important lesson that I found while being an SA, is that we need to vocalize ourselves, because clearly nothing is getting through this campus that shows students that we are who we are.
Elliot, we'll move to you first for this question. What specifically sparked your interest in running for SA president?
Absolutely. When I grew up, I want to be an astronaut. I know, it sounds dorky, but to me, that's a huge leadership opportunity. And being a student association president, I think it's the very first step and crucial step to making sure that I accomplish my goal of being an astronaut. Not only that, but to be honest, I really care about everybody else here on campus. I want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable. This is your home away from home, and if it doesn't feel like home, then what's the point, you know? Hey, I'm here, I want to make change, I want to make sure that you feel comfortable and know that your voice is being heard.
William?
As an assembly member, I got to work on a few different initiatives, whether it was Spring into Action, we had a few roundtables, some town halls. I also worked on COVID policy as a freshman. But I was just an assembly member. As Speaker Pro Temp, I was able to revamp little bits of the internal parts of the org, and I was also able to create the town halls that led to the student response to the DEIA strategic plan. As Speaker, I've worked on events basically every single week. I've gotten to run meetings, I've gotten to work with incredible assembly members who have aspirations and intellect that I couldn't even match if I tried. But I've met so many wonderful people and worked with so many wonderful initiatives that I found that being Student Association President is just the next step. It's the next step to helping students, and it's the next step to helping every member of that organization develop as a student leader and achieve their goals on campus.
And William, we'll start with you again. Why is serving in the Student Association and representing the student body important to you?
It's incredibly important because I genuinely believe that there are not enough voices representing students on this campus. I believe that while, for the DEIA strategic plan, there was a form for students to submit responses to it, there was no aggregated student voice. While the academic strategic plan was able to come to talk to us after that, and we were able to give them the responses of many different student leaders on campus. So why is serving in student association important? Because you're able to aggregate the voices of all the undergraduate students on this campus and bring them to administration to see real change.
All right, and we're going to ask next, what is one existing initiative? Oh, I'm so sorry. We're going to go to you.
You're fine.
My bad.
No, it's okay. May you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. Chile?
Yeah. Why is serving in the Students Association and representing the student body important to you?
It is absolutely crucial for me. I'm going to use it one more time, I'm sorry, but coming from a minority background, I feel like I have this certain perspective of there's clearly something going on here and nothing is being addressed. No one is taking acknowledgement of it, and I see that. It seems that nobody else is seeing it. Vote for me. I'll make sure it's seen, heard, and taken care of. That's why I think it's important.
William and Elliot, thank you.
When we come back, we will have closing statements from our presidential and vice presidential candidates, plus a little bit more. Stay with us.
You're watching the Student Association Executive Debate on CitrusTV.
Welcome back. Tonight's debate is coming to a close, but before we go, it's time for our presidential and vice presidential tickets to give their closing statements. Each ticket will have 2 minutes for their statements. Elliot, Brendan, we begin with you.
Yeah, well, first off, tonight, Elliot and I exemplified various ways of how to improve SU. Out of our ideas and suggestions, 3 values shine from us: sustainability, inclusivity, and enrichment. We believe that we embody these characteristics, and by being elected into the executive office, it will allow us both to utilize the platform of SA to further our current and future plans for doing our part to improve campus for students.
It's been an enlightening discussion for sure within this room, and I'd like to thank everyone for their thoughtful contributions. After everything that was said tonight, we want to remind you one thing, and that's to please, please, please vote. While talking and discussing ideas is cool, none of it won't happen if you don't vote, so please do so. And one final note, as you may know, following the debate, there will be food catered. As the president of Food Recovery, I have made the executive decision to recover the food after the event and give it to Chadwick Association, a nonprofit org that accommodates the homeless women with children and a place to live and eat. Thank you very much, and have a great night.
William and Yasmin.
Tonight, I'm asking all of you to let Yasmin and I continue to do exactly what we have been doing for the past 3 years, helping students. It is too common to hear from all over campus that students don't care about what happens at SU. However, time and time again, through every event we organize, every issue we advocated on, we've seen students care a lot. From surveys and tabling, we have received hundreds of complaints about issues students face here every day. That student input has been the foundation of all of our initiatives. Students want to see action, but they aren't always offered an equal opportunity to have their voices heard. Tonight, we showed you that student issues have always been our top priority. As president and vice president, we'll make them the top priority of this university as well.
Will and I are the 2 most prepared, experienced, and capable candidates. We will continue advocating for what you want and ensure student concerns are taken seriously to bring you real solutions. Under our leadership, Student Association will support the creation of a campus environment that students genuinely enjoy. As the daughter of Egyptian immigrants, holding a leadership position means a lot, not just to me, but to others on campus who feel like their voices matter less. Will and I will ensure all voices are heard, considered, and protected. We will create a diverse and robust cabinet to the best of our abilities because our leadership will only be as strong as those who work alongside us. We ask for your vote and support because we care about your experience at Syracuse, and I hope we've proven that we're ready to dedicate our time and energy to improving it as we amplify student voices. Thank you.
Thank you to all the candidates, Dylan, Elliot, Brendan, Will, and Yasmin, for your contributions tonight and for coming here to share your thoughts on how to create an unsurpassed student experience. I want to thank our moderators, Chilekasi and Teagan, for your dedication to the student body and for helping foster a productive debate on campus. Our timekeeper, Tanner, to Rob and Kimberly from the MBRC for all the hard work and dedication they've put into this event and into this building as well. To Taylor and Caroline, whom without it would have been impossible to even achieve half the stuff we've done. So I want to thank them for the continued support and for helping foster student elections on campus. And I want to thank all of you for coming tonight, for being an excellent audience. We're nothing without students, and it's great to see this level of support and engagement from all of you. Voting in this year's election begins this Monday, the 27th at midnight at sa.syr.edu/vote and will run through 11:59 p.m. on Friday the 8th. Throughout campus, you will see digital signage, lawn signs, A-frames with posters, and QR codes. This is your opportunity to make your voice heard, so I encourage you all to take it. Beyond the candidates you've seen here tonight, there's 33 assembly candidates across 13 schools, representing a diverse set of opinions and experiences, and it's your opportunity, regardless of whatever school you're in, to make your voice heard. We also have a referendum concerning SU's carbon neutrality objectives, so this really is an election to make your voice heard about everything concerning Syracuse University. After a few closing words from our moderators, I invite you to join myself and the candidates in the atrium for some refreshments and conversation. Thank you again, all, and good night.
Adele, thank you so much. And, Teagan, what a night.
What a night indeed. We heard from 2 tickets for president and VP. We heard from 1 candidate for comptroller and asked them questions from both us at CitrusTV as well as the students, which we have some students with us tonight watching the debate, so it's been nice. Thank you to all the students who have attended.
Right, and one thing we always talk about, sometimes we can kind of get ourselves in a little bit of a bubble as journalists, but It's always nice to hear from students too and see what they're thinking about, what they're posing. So having that student input is absolutely amazing to have that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we had to take out some of our questions because the students had also asked them. So just really seeing that kind of overlap of what the students wanted to know as well as what, we wanted to know was really interesting to see.
Yeah, and we've been covering this election. We've been covering the Student Association for a while here at Citrus TV. Our SA beat reporter, Brandon Myers, has been at those meetings every Monday night, trying to give our viewers, trying to give students the best information they can to make informed decisions.
Absolutely, and finding the information for those decisions, students can follow SA at SU on all of their social media. They'll post those reminders about when voting starts and when it ends, and they can also follow Citrus TV News because we'll have updates as well.
For sure. And that concludes the 2023 Student Association Executive Debate.
I'm Teagan Brown. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I'm Chilekasi, Adele. Don't forget, voting for this year's election begins this Monday, March 27th, at the strike of midnight, and polls close on Friday, March 31st at 11:59. And again, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Citrus TV News. We'll be providing you with information as next week goes on. You can also follow Brandon Myers, our SA beat, at Brandon Myers TV for the latest information. I'm Chilekasi, Adele. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good night.